Hi there. This blog is about what I call making a transition from external navigation in your life to internal navigation. So it's a bit of a rebirth process, if you like, that happens. So as we grow up, we tend to get a lot of influences put on us by the people around us. And also we tend to put a lot of store in particular value judgments around occupations. So just to go back to the first point. So as you're growing up, your family, for their best will and intention, they've often got certain ideas about what they think you should do. And as you're living in the same energy field, the same field of consciousness as these people, you can often tend to absorb whatever their perception is of who or what you should be in your life. So it tends to soak in. And a lot of the time, even if it's not particularly overt, so it might not be particularly verbally delivered, it's kind of constantly in the energy field around you, so you kind of feel it a little bit as an unspoken intention. And I'm not always saying that this is a fault on the part of your family or close people around you, because it's just what we often tend to do. We've got particular terms of references in our mind, which can often limit us in terms of what we perceive someone's potential is. Now, for me, I've obviously got this tendency and ability and capacity to do a lot of healing type work, acupuncture, teaching yoga. But that wouldn't have been in my parents' terms of reference for all the will in the world when I was growing up. So, in their terms of reference, in their mind, would have been whatever they perceived to be a good job and a good occupation. So that would have been hanging in the air, and that would have been, coming from their heart in this instance, projected onto me as to what they wanted me to be. And then obviously you've got a whole entire process as you're coming through school and education and all the rest of it. Again, about this value judgment of what is considered to be a good job. So you've got like a hierarchy of work, which is often aligned with jobs that are worth more money than other jobs, which kind of fits into this whole thing of making profit and fitting in and feeding the economy. So sometimes jobs that have got a very good value judgment, for whatever reason by society it's considered to be a good job, might not necessarily be a good job for you. It might not fit to your skill set, and it might be a little bit of a disparity in the respect of you've got a skill and the capacity to do something else, but it's not considered by society to be a good, valuable thing, So you've sometimes got to look at these societal level disparities about how we consider some jobs to be better than others just because they pay more money. And, as far as I'm concerned, we all operate in a kind of a whole level community, where everyone's got a place, everyone's got a place in the community for your skills and talents to be valued. And so to move on to the point about making this transition, what can often happen, I said, as you grow up and you start to navigate according to these value judgments of what work you're meant to do and in accordance with what the people around you want, and you'll often get to a point where you realise that just does not fit for you, and you kind of have to drop that. And then what I see is this second birth, because people have then got to make a transition into discovering who they are and what they actually want to do. And it's amazing when I see this process. So often, people come and see me for acupuncture, we sit and we talk about it, and people will have reached a dead end with their particular job. And I'll be saying, okay, so what do you want to do? And they just don't really know, because they haven't had the time and space to kind of go inside and feel and hear who they are and what they actually want to do. So it can be that someone could be a really well-rounded individual who's adapted well and learnt to navigate through life, and maybe have got these high-level skills and capacities which lend them to having these good jobs, but it's not what they want. And when it comes to knowing actually what they want to do, it's like this real unknown area, and it's something I went through myself. So in my early 20s, reached a bit of a dead end in particular jobs that I used to do, and I actually ended up getting fatigue. I was doing jobs that I didn't really like, and so double whammy, I was giving away a lot of energy I didn't really want to give away, pushing energy into work I didn't want to do, and obviously not getting nourished by something I wanted to do, so hence you end up getting fatigue. And for me, I actually ended up being off work for about a year, And when I went back to work, I very quickly realised that I actually couldn't carry on in that particular job. And I had to extract myself from that situation again. And then for me, what I called my process of making that transition involved what I call following the clues. So I'd spent a year while I'd been off work doing loads of acupuncture, like having loads of acupuncture for me, doing lots of yoga, lots of dance movement practices. And I realised by doing that during that period of time, I was actually really well and healthy. And so I had to sit down and actually work out, and I was like, okay, so I might be feeling ill again now because I'm back in this job that I don't like. But for the last year of my life, I've actually been really well. And what have I been doing? Like, I had to break it down into that simplistic of a process to actually watch and be aware of what happens in my body-mind when I do activity A versus what happens in my body-mind when I do activity B. You know, so that's part of the journey, following these clues, what actually opens me up and energizes me. And the second part of it is having a space that you can go into where you can really hear yourself. And this is where I talk a lot about the type of yoga that I teach and doing things like meditation, because that helps to cut out some of the kind of the babble that occurs in your mind that might not necessarily have come from you. And it gets you into a deeper part of you, which is basically your heart. You know, so they often say the heart has got the quietest voice of any of these chattering, you know, voices that you hear in your mind. So when you go into a deep meditation or particularly a deep relaxation, I know for me, that's when I check back in with myself. And I also think that's why sometimes people actually find it a little bit uncomfortable to unplug from whatever they're plugged into and start to slow down, because sometimes that inner voice that's coming from inside you can be telling you things that is very confronting to what the choices are you've actually made in your life about things that you are doing, you know, and there can be this kind of counter current that happens. So it's a brave journey to turn that corner and start to look inside. And for me, actually, there was no turning back. So once I turned that corner and started to listen to what was inside of me, that there's no going back. Because when you start to act on the things and the impulses and the desires and the passions that are inside you, it's wonderful, you know, it's amazing. It's like a natural high, if you like, because you're in tune then with a much broader awareness than the little voices in your head and what they're telling you to do. Because basically, the way I work with it from my model is what's going on in your heart and that deepest voice that's happening. It kind of comes from your soul. And your soul connects to a much bigger intelligence. Now, even if you strip away the spiritual jargon and you don't even want to think it's your soul, I'm sure you can all agree that we've all got individual tendencies. And so whether you like it or not, it's good to do the things that suit you. So yeah, having some kind of practice that enables you to get inside and listen to yourself is essential. And that's why for me, at least once a week, otherwise I go a little bit crazy, I have to go and do yoga and do a deep relaxation where I can strip away everything that's around me and keep coming back and check into what's inside me. You know, and I kind of get it as images, I get it as like a little bit of narrative, almost like downloads of information, little visions. I get it also when I'm dancing too a lot, you know, if I'm freestyle dancing, just free dancing at something like 5 rhythms. I kind of get like information, just visions, you know, of what I should do and where I should go. And I've learned in my life that when I follow those visions, internally generated visions make a lot more sense than when I'm doing my 2 + 2 = 4, so therefore I should do that action. Okay, so here's your action plan for making the transition if you're stuck in that phase, and it can happen at any time. You know, I've had a lot of people who've extracted from their first birth, their first life at age 20, 25, 30, 35, 40. It can happen at any time. So find practices you can do that enable you to come inside and really listen to what's going on inside you. And it can be daunting, so you might want support with that. So you might want to have a therapist, a counsellor, a good yoga teacher, a good meditation teacher, an acupuncturist, someone you can go to who might relate to what you're experiencing. Yeah, so find classes that you can do, and also if you're really stuck, go back and follow the clues. Simple. Just look at the things that you do in your life that actually seem to work for you, because a lot of the things we do just on a really basic level that feed us and nourish us, we don't always validate them as something that you can do as a career. But by and large, there's a transferable skill in that. So even if it's something that you considered always to be a hobby, there'll be some transference to a job, an occupation that you can often channel that energy into. And you've got to remember this lifetime that you're in now is this lifetime, and maybe you could think, well, I'm going to come back again and reincarnate, I get another shot at it. But you really want to be doing things now that thrill and exhilarate you, really. It's a whole other level of health when you're not just looking after your body, but you're really looking after your soul and spirit. There you go. I hope that's useful. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.